so the rest of the projects that we're going to do in gpio require the files and tutorials from Freenove. So to bring that package in, we're going to open up the terminal, and then we're going to type in the command line git clone space dash dash depth space 1, and then the URL that we want to access is https:// and then github.com/ then Freenove with a capital F, then slash, and Freenove underscore ultimate underscore starter underscore kit underscore then 4 with a lowercase f underscore, and then capital raspberry underscore and capital pi dot get. Okay, so git clone dash dash depth 1, then the URL. It's case sensitive, so be careful with your cases and your spelling, and then dot get when you press enter, and then it's going to run through this sequence to download the files from GitHub, and then make sure that you read through this to make sure that it came through okay. So if you see anything that says that there's errors or something wasn't installed, then you want to let me know. Okay. So now, just open it up so you can see more of the monitor. There we go. Okay, now we're going to open up our File Explorer and make sure that that the package is there that we just brought in. So you should have in your home directory in the Pi folder a folder now called Freenove Ultimate Starter Kit. Okay, go ahead and double click to open that. Okay, and then you should see a folder that says tutorial.pdf. Okay, so we're going to double click to open up that tutorial. And that's a PDF file, so if you want to download the file so that you don't have to run it from inside of the browser, you're welcome to do that. Okay, next thing that we need to do once you're inside the tutorial is scroll down to the table of contents. And that table of contents is hyperlinked, so when we click on a page that we want, it's going to take us right to it. And if you look at Chapter 0 Preparation, okay, we're going to hop down to the command or the link for installing Wiring Pi. So go ahead and click on that, and it's going to jump you to page 32. Okay, and we're going to follow these installation steps that are listed here to install the Wiring Pi library so that we can access that when we're in Python. So you are welcome to pause the video and go through those steps on your own, or we can work through them together. I installed mine already, so when I bring up my terminal and go through these commands, some of the results aren't going to look the same as yours. It's just going to tell me that it's already been installed. Okay, but you're going to go to, let's see if I can bring this up a little closer here. So you're going to go back to your terminal, and then following along in those commands, focus, there we go. Following the commands that were in the terminal, we're going to start with sudo space apt -get update, okay, and you're going to run that update sequence. Okay, I'm not going to do that because it takes a lot of time. And then next, we're going to go to git clone and then https:// and then the URL github.com/ and then capital WIRING, so wiring pi / then capital W wiring pi. Okay, and press enter. Okay, now mine says destination path already exists, right? Not an empty directory, because I already installed this package. But when you follow the tutorial instructions, right, yours is going to look like this. Okay, and you should end up with no errors, and then it should say done at the bottom. Okay, then next we want to change our directory. So we're going to go to cd space, and then the directory we want to go to is wiring pi. Okay, so now I'm in my wiring pi directory, and we're going to use the command /build, and then press enter. Okay, and it's going to run you through that sequence that's described in your tutorial. Okay, then we're going to run this command to check the installation. But first we need to go back to our home directory. So cd and then tilde takes me back to my home directory. Oh, whoops, I can't see that down there. There we go. So now I'm back in my home directory, and then we're going to do gpio space and then -v to get the version and make sure that that is what we want. So we've got gpio version 2.6, and looks like all of that is up to snuff. Okay, next thing we want to do is make sure that our Python is going to be version 3 and not just version 2. So if you're following along in your Freenove tutorial, okay, those directions you will find here. Let me get this bigger. Okay, so you'll find those directions here on page 35, where it talks about Python 2 versus Python 3. Okay, and I'll go ahead and walk you through those steps in the terminal if you want to follow along. So first thing that we want to look for in our terminal is our version of Python 2. So you'll type Python 2 and press enter. Okay, and in the Freenove tutorial, it says Python 2.7.13 from November 24th, 2017. Okay, that was the current version when this tutorial was made. So now you'll notice, since we've done some updates, we've got Python 2.7.16, which was the version as of October 10th, 2019, okay, when we installed our operating system. Okay, now we're going to do Control-Z on the keyboard, right, to exit out of that Python and get our terminal back, our command prompt, and then we're going to look for Python 3. So Python 3, enter, and the tutorial shows Python 3.5.3 from January 19th, 2017. Our version is 3.7.3 from July 25th, 2020. Okay, and again, we'll do Control-Z to exit out of that. Okay, now we want to change our version from Python 2 to Python 3 if necessary. And so we want to see what our default is. So from our terminal, we're going to type just Python and press enter. And if yours comes up as Python 2, that means your default Python when you're running Thonny and IDEs and things is version 2. Okay, we want that to be version 3. So we need to change. If yours comes up as version 3, you're good. But if you have version 2 like I do as your default, you're going to need to change that. So we're going to do Control-Z to get back to our command prompt. Okay, and then I'm going to change my directory. So CD for change directory, and then I'm going to do /user usr/bin to get into that directory. Okay, now I'm going to move this up a little so you can see the bottom there. There we go. So now I'm going to do my command sudo rm is remove Python, and that's not going to delete the program, it's just going to remove the old Python link. So I'm press enter. Okay, then I'm going to create a new link so that when Python is called, it points to Python 3 instead of Python 2. So we'll do sudo and then ln space -s space Python 3 Python. Okay, and press enter. And then we're going to check to make sure that that works, okay, by typing Python and see if it points to version 3 now, which it does. So now my version 3.7.3 is my default when we want to run a Python file. Okay, so now back to the Freenove tutorial. When you're in the toolbar at the top, if you click on this little bookmarks drop down, you can always jump to the table of contents by using the contents bookmark. And then that'll take us back up here. And you'll notice we worked through chapter 0, which was getting the preparation set up to use the Freenove project guides. Most of these chapters at the beginning here, we've already completed using the Raspberry Pi Beginner's Guide. So, for example, getting a blinking LED to work, push buttons. We didn't do a bar graph LED, but that would be a fun one to go back and try. We did the RGB LED with the 4 prongs this last time. We've worked with buzzers already. Some of these, like potentiometers, and reading temperature sensor, right? We did that with the Sense Hat. Same thing for joystick. We played with a joystick when we used the Sense Hat. But these chapters, if you wanted to go through them, would show you how to make those processes work with the individual components, which is a fun thing to do. But we're going to move on now into motors. And chapter 13 and 14, your DC motor and then this, let me click on that, there we go, this DC motor with a relay, okay, they require a 9-volt battery, and I wasn't thinking ahead enough to order those when you guys came in, got your kits dropped off. So we're going to skip over those, and instead we're going to go to the chapter for the servo motor, so chapter 15, because the servo, we can make that motor work without using a 9-volt battery. If you have a 9-volt battery, though, at home, I would strongly recommend going back and doing chapters 13 and 14 to become familiar with those DC motors. Okay, we're going to use DC motors again when we get to our robot buggy project, because that we're going to use a different battery pack to control those motors, so we won't need a 9-volt battery. Okay, so you're going to go to project 15.1. and try going through those directions. The code is included in the download file in your file manager when you go to, oh, let me pull that over where you can see it. In your file manager when you go to the Freenove file, and then up here to code, okay, and then Python code. These are all the code files that come with each one of the chapters. So as you're working through and it asks you to open up code for a certain file, right, then you're going to go to that chapter and that file. So for the one that we're working on, chapter 15.1, you would open that, and then this will be your Python file, which should open up in, oh, I installed Mu. So it's opening up for me in the Mu IDE, but yours, if you don't have Mu installed, will open up in Fani. Okay, so you won't have to write the code for these programs. You're just going to focus on wiring the motor, following the directions in the tutorial, and then running the code as it's written. Because of that, it's really important when you're in the tutorial that you follow the circuit diagrams really closely. So make sure that you're using the pins that they tell you to. So if they tell you to use GPIO pin 18 in your circuit diagram, make sure that you're doing that, because otherwise your code isn't going to run correctly. If you make a change, so you're using a different pin number, for example, just make sure you go into the code that you download and adjust that parameter in the code so that it knows where to look for your component. Okay.